ask you about last night. How do you look at this? Do you look at it as Memphis gave the game away, considering they're up 12 in the fourth quarter? Or do you look at Golden State won it and took it, even though it was an ugly game?
In that scenario, look, I think it goes both ways. But I do think that Golden State won the game simply because with their experience, they made the plays down the stretch. They were able to make some changes, made some adjustments. I thought having Andrew Wiggins was a huge decision to put him on the ball for pressure. If you notice, they really took away options for Memphis because they forced Memphis to play late in the shot clock. And Memphis, without Ja, they don't have a dynamic offensive player. They don't really have anybody that Golden State has to load their defense to. And they just struggle to get good looks at the rim. I just felt like Desmond Bane, who's in essence been their second best player all season, his inability to have much of an impact, only getting up 8 shots. I just thought it was going to be a challenge for them. Listen, they did everything they needed to defensively. They held Golden State to basically 100 points. If you told me going into the game that they'd be able to hold them to 100 and have the lead with basically a minute to go in the game and not win it, I would have been a little surprised. But you got to give the credit to Golden State, man. They played harder, they played smarter, and they had the best player on the floor who took over in the fourth quarter.
Greg Anthony, NBA on TNT analyst, joins us this morning on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. Greg, how much does the inexperience of the Memphis Grizzlies in this situation have them down 3-1?
Look, you could say it's the inexperience, but and that plays a role to this extent. I think it's more the lack of talent. And understand what I'm saying. It's not that they aren't a good team, but they didn't have their Steph Curry. If you think about how this series is played out, with Ja on the floor, it changes everything that Golden State does defensively. With him not on the floor, you now have to ask guys, and you guys both know this in sports. The one thing a coach never wants to do is to ask players to do things they're not comfortable doing. And now all of a sudden, you have to find a guy who can offset the pressure and make plays and create opportunities for everybody. And they didn't have that. And so now it just makes the game harder. Golden State knew what they were going to get and how they were going to get it all game. I mean, especially in that fourth quarter. They were happy to be in a tight game because they felt like they had the best player. They had trust in how they were going to perform down the stretch. And I think Memphis just kind of lacked that a little bit. Yes, they had a lot of success during the regular season without Ja, but you guys both know the postseason is a completely different animal. That's the fifth time they played a team or fourth time they played a team in the last week. And that takes a toll. And that's why having great players are so important because they tend to be able to have success against great defense. And not having him, you look at Desmond Bane only got up 8 shots. Dylan Brooks struggled to shoot the basketball. Jaren Jackson Jr. struggled to shoot the basketball. And so that takes a toll on a young team, especially in a hostile environment. And so that's how I look at it now. Now we got to find out, does Ja play in the next game? Can they rally and force, a 6th game, potentially a 7th game? That's what we're going to have to find out. But I give the credit to Golden State because they still had to make plays down the stretch, and they made more than Memphis.
Greg, so talking to Greg Anthony, Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max, ESPN Radio. So, look, I know it doesn't always work this way. But what I was trying to argue earlier, but no one agreed with me, was that if it's that close in a Game 4 after you just got beaten up in Game 3, I have to think if Ja was ready to go, we're talking about a knotted series right now. And do you think that is right? Do you think Ja's absence is the reason, when all is said and done, I know it changes everything, but that they're down 3-1 right now instead of knotted up?
Well, I mean, I think you could absolutely make that argument. I mean, if you flip the script and ask if Steph Curry didn't play and they were down 2-1 going into the game and they lost the game, I don't think anybody would say that Steph Curry's absence wouldn't have had an impact. You know, I mean, listen, Ja Morant has been the best player in the series. And that's with all due respect to the greatness of Steph Curry and, you know, obviously what Golden State has done and what he's done. But in this series, Ja had been the best player. He's been the one guy for which Golden State really didn't have an answer. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I will say this, though. I'm not going to say they win it if he plays, but if you put the scenario we watched play out last night, that fourth quarter, and he's in the game, I think that they would have had a much better opportunity. I think they get a lot more good looks, you know, in that fourth quarter. I think when the heat gets turned up because of his ability to break down the defense, he's going to create better opportunities for Memphis. So, yeah, I think it gives them a better chance. There's no doubt about that. But he wasn't in the game, and they lost. And now they've got to win 3 in a row. And we all know how difficult a challenge that's going to be, especially for a young team. We'll just have to see how they respond to the adversity. And, you know, now the series changes a little bit as well because now they're going to play every other day in essence. So there's not going to be a lot of time in between games to rest up. And that could help a younger Memphis team, but only time will tell, especially not knowing the status of Ja Morant.
Greg Anthony, NBA on TNT analyst, former NBA PG, 1990 NCAA champion for the UNLV.
Damn, that was a long time ago.
Man, but hey, those are the squads, though, GA. You got me into hoops.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus right now.